there's a
They
wealth of
do.
information really everywhere if you look. I remember um, looking at Larry Moss. He's actually the
Mm-hmm.
acting coach for DiCaprio.
Mm-hmm.
And I was at a SAG event and I asked Leo something about acting and he referenced Larry Moss. And so I went home and I researched Larry Moss and listened to him and even audited one of his classes before just to kind of compare because there are so many methods out there. You have to figure out what works for you. And for me personally, I have a whole toolkit of different things that I might try for different, scenarios. So the information is out there. You're kind of just trying to figure out what works for you.
Hello, everyone. I am Danny Wigfall, and this is the Design Your Remarkable Life podcast. Here, I interview incredible individuals who are leaving their mark on the world, generating wealth, and charting their own course. So get your notepads out and let's get into it. This next guest holds a very special place in my heart. She is absolutely amazing, incredibly talented, just the sweetest person. She is amazing inside and out. And I'm pretty sure you have all seen her on your television screen. But she talks about how she transitioned from being a lawyer to an actress and working all the time. So I'm not talking about, oh, just I booked one role a year. No, she is constantly working. And in some of your favorite shows like Shameless, Modern Family, Last Man Standing, Perry Mason. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. I can't even name all the shows. It's just been so many. Currently up next, releasing November 14th, she is in this thriller series called Cross. We're so excited about it. It's based on the James Patterson novels, and she is playing a detective, and we cannot wait. So, without further ado, I want to welcome Stacie Greenwell to the show. Stacie, I am so happy to have you on the show.
I'm happy to be here, Danny. Thanks for asking me.
Yes, absolutely. So you have had a journey in this acting business, and I want to know because it didn't start there. I want to know how you jumped into acting.
Well, it was a gradual jump, if you will.
Mhm.
When I used to practice law. So when I was in law school, we had a mock trial where people would pretend to be each other's witnesses. So someone asked me to pretend to be a witness. I think I was a mom and I was grieving something. So I put on a wig and some glasses and I got on the stand and I was crying and getting into it. And
Wow.
the professor called a recess and he said, "Are you okay?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'm acting." And he was like, "People don't usually do this. Like, you're doing a lot." But to me, it was just like a fun experience, something cool that I
Mhm.
did. And I just enjoyed it. And then a couple of years later, while still in law school, The Wiz came to town and I sing. And so I thought, well, hey, maybe I'll just audition and see what happens. I ended up getting the role of Dorothy, and it
Mm.
was one of the best experiences of my life. I loved it. But again, just a fun, cool thing that I did. I never thought it
Yeah.
would be an actual job. So
Mhm.
that was the third year in law school. So then when I started practicing law, I remember taking a tour of the law firm and I was in the library and I heard a voice, which I now know to be the voice of God, said to me, "This
Mhm.
is not your life." And I was
Wow.
like, "What?" Not my life. I didn't know what it meant. I had never, considered not doing, practicing law. So I wasn't sure what that even meant. But, I practiced for a couple of years. And then 2 years later, I was like, oh, this is what it means. This is not my life because
Mm.
I wasn't fulfilled.
Yeah.
I didn't really enjoy. I didn't hate it, but it just didn't feel like the type of thing I wanted to dedicate my life to or spend a lot of
Mhm.
time doing. Um, so I started making a list of everything that made me happy, and it
Mm.
included spending time with family, fine dining, traveling. Like I was writing down anything that made me
Yeah.
happy. And then I was
Mhm.
like, oh, I enjoyed being in that play. And it was fun when I did that mock trial and I like to sing. So, I just threw anything down. And then after a few weeks, I'd look at it again And I said, well, hey, I got a lot of things that are in the performance category.
Mhm.
Maybe I could do something with that. Started taking a class at a community college on acting while I
Mhm.
was, still practicing law. I would do this class in the evenings. That was cool. Then I would go to New York on the weekends sometimes from DC and took another
Mhm.
acting class. And then what happened after that? And then I was like, I think I'm going to do it. So
Yeah.
I applied to graduate school for acting, quit my law
Wow.
firm job, and I was out. I moved to New York, and
Mm.
that was that. So that was the
Wow.
process.
Yeah. Were you scared to quit that? Because I know sometimes it's like, okay, become a doctor, become a lawyer, and we hold on to those things. And then you did all the things, you were practicing, you had all the accolades and all of the training and all of the education. Was it hard to make that jump after like having the classes and going to New York? Was it hard to switch over?
It was exciting. I mean, I knew I
Oh.
was taking a risk, but I
Mhm.
mean, I still had all the training that you're talking about. So if I needed to go back to law, that was always there.
Mhm.
I wanted to take a chance on myself. I wanted to see what there was. I mean, I had actually tried the law and I didn't like it. And of course, maybe I could have tried a different type of law or whatever, but the idea of doing something that I was actually passionate about was
Right.
exhilarating. And I was like, you try it for a year. If you don't like it, come back and,
Mhm.
do something else. But it felt, it was scary, but also exciting.
Yeah. Yeah. Nice. So how did you get into working in the industry? Because it's one thing to like take a class, it's another thing to start working in the industry.
Well, let me think about that. I started auditioning a little bit while I was in school because they would have
Okay.
open calls. And so, I got a few callbacks for Broadway shows, and that was exciting. And so,
Wow.
then when I graduated, I got an agent and started going out for stuff. But I guess my first professional job,
Mhm.
was actually I got it through a class. I was taking a musical theater class. And
Yeah.
the pianist, when I sang my little song, the pianist was looking at me in a strange way. And I'm so
Mhm.
nosy afterwards. I was like, I noticed you were looking at me. Was I doing something wrong? Why were you looking at
Right.
me like this? And so he said, well, actually, there's a play that I'm directing. It's an
Mm.
equity play, so a professional
Yep.
play. And I had never done that. And he said, I think you'd be good for the role. And so I auditioned and I got the role, and it was Menopause the Musical.
Ah.
Because I was not the age of menopause.
No.
And um, so it was cool. He said, we'll put a wig on you and all of like, it's theater.
Mhm.
You can make it happen. And so I did that play, and that was my first professional play.
Wow, wow. So after that play,
Yeah.
did you stay in New York? What did you do after that?
I did. Once I graduated from school, I stayed in New York
Mhm.
for 3 more years. I would basically be a part time lawyer during the day and then
Mm.
do plays and musicals at night. So I did that for
Mhm.
3 years, but I really wanted to do television. And it started when I did a commercial, and it was so much fun. And I thought,
Yeah.
I want to do more of that. And there's TV in New York. There's more, I think, than when I was there. But, everybody talks about LA and television
Mhm.
and movies. And so I was like, I'm going out there. I said, no, I don't have an agent. I didn't have a lot of friends out here. I wasn't
Right.
young, but I was
Yeah.
like, once again, take a chance on yourself. If it doesn't work, you figure out something else. And so
Mhm.
I just made my way out here.
Yeah, so you moved to LA,
Yeah.
and then when you moved to LA, did you have an agent moving to LA?
Didn't use
No.
agent,
No.
but they had this workshop thing where you can meet a lot of agents and casting
Mhm.
directors. It was like a weekend or so of meeting people. So I did that
Yeah.
as soon as I moved out here. And I was able to get an agent quickly thereafter, which was
Mhm.
cool. But I quickly realized that having an agent isn't enough.
Yep. Yeah.
because I was like, I got my agent, it's about to be on, blah, blah, blah. Crickets. Like I was getting
Yeah.
no auditions, no calls, no nothing. So I thought to myself, okay, there must be more. And I was talking to the agent. He was like, well, nobody knows you yet, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, well, I got to get to know people. So I
Hmm.
started doing workshops and things like that. They don't
Hmm.
have as many as they used to back in LA,
Right.
but they used to have a lot of workshops where you pay, I don't know, $35, $50, and you can go to a workshop, do a scene with a casting director. And if they liked you, they'll call you in for something, if the
Hmm.
role is right for you. So I started doing that, and that was the way I started getting roles.
Mm.
Like my first, I don't know, 8 roles or so was pretty much because I was meeting people and kind of developing these relationships.
Got you. Got you. So the development of relationships, networking, that piece. I'm so glad you mentioned that because I feel like that's something that's missing in the industry when people are just starting off is that
Hmm.
networking piece. Like a lot of people think of okay, I need to get an agent and then I need to book. I need to get an agent, I need to book, but they miss that like doing workshops, networking,
Hmm.
connecting. And I remember when I was in the industry and I was doing commercials and things, and
Yeah.
I was taking your acting class, and something you said to me that I literally take with me into like everything that I do is you have to target. You have to have a target. What are you trying to hit? Go after that target. Don't just throw everything out there. What roles are you trying to go after? Like
Yeah.
what shows do you want to be on? Who's over those shows? And how it literally was a light bulb that went off in my head.
It's me, Danny. Thank you.
Yes, it literally I was like, "Oh my gosh, no one has ever told me that," and it makes so much sense. And I've used that in everything. I'm like, "No, I need to
Really?
have a target." Yes. I've
I
used
think
that
it
in
just
everything.
makes it easier instead of thinking about the whole world, just being
Mhm.
like, you know what, I'm just go after these 10 shows or
Yep.
this right here. It makes it more manageable because sometimes it can
Mhm.
become so overwhelming to get
Mhm.
into this industry. A lot of times we
Yeah.
don't have anybody to really guide us or talk to about it. So it makes it feel like, hey, I may not get on every show, but how about I focus on
Mhm.
these 10 and see what I could do with that? Um,
Yeah.
yeah, I think it's just more efficient and it makes you feel more empowered to
Mhm.
conquer this industry, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's good. Like taking a section of it. Don't look at the whole thing of like, I'm gonna do all the things,
Yeah.
but focusing in.
Mhm.
Yeah. No, that's good. Now, Stacie, you are on all of the shows. Okay. Like turn on the TV, all of the things. I'm like, oh, there's Stacie again and again. And I love it. But you have to give us some of the gems of how are you consistently working in an industry that is so difficult for so many people? Because it's not a matter of, oh, let me climb this corporate ladder. And it's also not always, okay, if you're the most talented in the room, you're going to get booked and booked and booked and booked. But what is some of the secret sauce? Besides you, of course.
The Lord, prayer, and um,
Yeah.
it does go back to those relationships because
Mhm.
now more and more casting directors know me. And so
Mhm.
if a role comes up, they may think of me, and
Yeah.
so, and that's why the business side of acting is so important. You could be the most
Mhm.
talented person in the world, but if no one knows you,
Right.
then you're just going to be acting in your living room. So
Mhm.
I think, since I've been here, I have developed relationships, and you have to keep trying to cultivate those relationships as best you can.
Mhm.
And nowadays it used to be kind of, I think, easier when you went into the room to audition because you'd have that face to face with people. Now we're
Right.
sending in tapes, and you don't have
Right.
that. So I do miss that interaction, but
Mhm.
luckily at this point in my career, I already have established some of those relationships that are still, flourishing.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm glad you brought that up because it's very different now post COVID. Like a lot of things have gone to Zoom and self tapes and sending those in versus before you're in the room, you could feel the energy,
Yeah. It's
behind it.
It's
Yeah.
really
Do
different.
you?
It was almost
Mhm.
like live theater, in that
Yeah.
you can feel the audience,
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
it gives you a special type of energy, but there's, pros and cons, because now you can do it as many times as you want, which is a good and bad thing. But one thing I do like is when I send in a tape, I
Mm-hmm.
feel like it's my best that I can do. Whereas sometimes in the
Mm.
room, you're like, oh, I missed that one part. I wish I had, in a
Yeah.
way now, or at least you hope you did the best that you can do. And so that's
Mm-hmm.
nice. And it probably opens up opportunities for more people with self
Mm-hmm.
tapes, because back in the day, there's only so much time that people can come in. Whereas now, you could probably ask way more people to send in tapes than before.
Mm-hmm.
So, I think that's good for especially up and coming actors.
Yeah, no, that's good. That's good. And another thing you mentioned was like reaching out and networking and things like that. And now I have some casting director friends and just people I know. And there's certain ways to go about reaching out and how much you reach out. And I know that depends on the person. Do you have any recommendations on if someone's new, they're moving to LA, they want to network, they want to get themselves out there, of how they can reach out to different casting directors or people that are working in the industry?
Well, wherever you can find a workshop, I still suggest that. And they are still happening, just not as much as it used to be. But I think workshops are great because you're meeting people and you're showing them what you can do. And at the end of the
Yeah.
day, that's what it's about. I've heard people like not take those workshops seriously. Like, it's not a real audition, or it's not. No, you better do your best, because
Yeah.
you have an opportunity to show something to a decision maker. Like, so you want to
Hmm.
put your best foot forward. I've seen people kind of not think that it's important, but it is.
Hmm.
Um, and then, I mean, if you were to have a casting director's email, if there was, a newsletter that you put out, or you just book something, I mean, you want to be respectful. So you're not like every day sending something, or really even every week. But, if it's monthly, or every time you get a job or something, let it have some substance, I think.
Hmm.
I think
Hmm.
that's important, because they may or may not care about your Italian vacation and stuff like that. Because I've seen people send just random things.
Hmm.
For me, I send stuff that's work related, because unless
Right.
we have a personal relationship, then it's professional. So I'm going to talk about professional things. So
Hmm.
um, I think that's a good idea, just to
Yeah.
keep it professional.
No, that's good. That's good. Do you have any? So once you're behind the screen, you're in the audition room. Do you
Yeah.
have any tips for being in the audition room or self taping at all? Now, before we continue, I want to let you know that if you are looking for a more personal touch in your own life and you want to design your own remarkable life, we would love to work with you at Whole Self Wealth. So reach out to us at Whole Self Wealth so we can elevate you and transform you to that next level. Sometimes we just need a coach. Sometimes we need a partner to partner up with us to really make it to those next levels, right? I want to let you know that our team is here for you. I want to connect with you so we can design what's next for you. Now, back to the show.
Tips for self-taping. Okay, well, just recently I had an opportunity to go into the audition room, which I haven't done in a really long time. And I was
Mhm.
excited, but I kind of
Mhm.
decided against it
Mhm.
because there was a lot of physicality in the
Oh.
audition. And I felt
Mhm.
that that was best served at home.
Yeah.
Also, there were like, I think I was like a waitress or a bar. So there was like cups and all this stuff. And I
Um.
felt if I was going to do it, it'd probably be better at home. You definitely don't want
Mhm.
to mime and stuff like that. So,
Mm-mm. Mhm.
yeah, I guess that's one tip. If it seems like something with a lot of physicality or props, you may want to stay at home if you have the option. Um, what else? But there's also Zoom. When I used to be in person, I was focused. So I
Mhm.
wasn't in the waiting room chatting it up with my friends, or showing pictures of my dog. No, I was, P.S. I don't even have a dog, but that was just an example.
Yeah.
I wasn't in there just, shooting the breeze. So I was in there focused. I was going over my
Yeah.
lines, or I was relaxing, listening to music, preparing myself for the audition, because what you don't want to do is be mid sentence and then they're like, "Oh, Stacie Greenwell, come in," and I'm like, "Oh, let me get my mind right." No, no, no. And some people, and I'll just tell them, "Oh, Stacie, good to see you," because a lot of times you're seeing all these same people, so
Yep.
you're probably friends, or at least friendly. And I
Mhm.
just said, "Oh no, I'm preparing. I'll talk to you after." Now, after I'm done auditioning, we can talk all day. We can go
Right.
have some coffee, whatever. But while I'm in audition mode, I don't play that. So
Yeah.
that was in the room. Oh, but also let me tell you something else about the room. Sometimes people can be intimidated by the
Mhm.
casting people, and that's understandable. You obviously can have fear, but really try to center yourself and remember that this is your time. So I've
Right.
talked to people who, when they go in, "Oh, can I sit here? Can I?" No, 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 no. This is your time. Take the chair. Stand
Yeah.
up when you want to. Sit down. You can tell them, "I'm about to do this. I'm going to do this," but come into the room with confidence. Don't come
Mhm.
in looking scared or meek,
Mhm.
because they're probably concerned that's how you're going to act on set. Like,
Mhm.
"Oh, I don't know how to do anything." We're actors. So act like you're confident when you walk into
Mhm.
that room. Do the thing. So, say I go to grab a chair and they say, "Oh, actually, we'd like you to stand." Okay, that's fine. But I'm not going to say, "Oh, do you mind if maybe?" No, no, no. Just come
Mhm.
in the way you would for, I guess, non-acting jobs, like if you were
Yeah.
being a banker or whatever, you come in with this confidence, this professionalism. Do the same thing for acting. So
Mhm.
that's what I would
Yeah.
say for the room. For at-home tapes, what tips? I mean, have your equipment. I mean, that's
Yeah.
kind of
Yep.
basic, but you'd be surprised. A lot of people I've
Mhm.
talked to are like, "Oh, I don't have, lights, or I don't have a backdrop, or I don't have." Well, you better, because now
Yeah.
it's what we do. So,
Mhm.
some of the stuff may be expensive, but a lot of it isn't. I have a
Mhm.
real basic setup with just a backdrop, something for like a stand for my computer, some lights, and that's about it. But it's necessary to have the proper equipment.
Mhm.
Um, I don't know. You could do Zoom auditions
Yeah.
with your friends, like we're doing
Mhm.
now. You don't need a person in the room. You could Zoom.
Mhm.
Um, no, I don't know. That's about it. Yeah, I don't know. You
Mhm.
got any other questions? I'm trying to think
No,
of
you know
what.
what a question I get a lot
Yeah,
is people, and I feel like it's more of a basic thing, and I would love to hear your take on this because I know you already know this.
what's that?
Is eye lines
Mm,
for Zoom,
yeah.
eye lines, and what would be a good eye line for someone that's going through their lines or going through their sides.
When you're doing like, so my scene partner is on Zoom with me, but I have a camera set up beside it. I
Mhm.
look at the computer. I look at my scene partner and the camera,
Mhm.
because you shouldn't look directly into the camera when you're doing the audition. So I treat the Zoom as if it's somebody's head. Like if they
Mhm.
were there, where would their head be? And so, and the camera is right beside the computer, and that's how you do that. If I have multiple eye lines, I actually use a mannequin head. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
I've done that, and I saw somebody else do it, and I was like, "Oh, what a good idea!" And so
Yeah.
I just have these little creepy mannequin heads around, and I just prop them up because I like having a face. Some people they'll use
Right.
an X or like a
Mhm.
Post-it or whatever. For me, I like to see something that resembles a face. I mean, you could probably even use a magazine, picture with, or a real picture with somebody's face. But for me, the mannequin works. But I like to look at real faces.
Yeah, yeah, that's good. I like that, real faces. I've heard of like the X or a box or like a broom and turning it upside down so it looks like hair and things like that.
That's hilarious. I mean, I guess I always try to make my auditions as
Mm,
similar to real life as possible. And
yeah.
some things you obviously can't do,
Mhm.
but having a face I can do. If it's going to make me act better, then I'm going to do it. So sure, I
Yeah.
can act with
Mm,
nothing at all. I can look into space and pretend that it's, whatever, but why not make it easy for myself, especially when I'm at home? Like you can do
mhm.
anything when you're at home, so
Yeah.
might as well use that freedom. I'm going to do
Mhm.
more at home than I would in the office because I have more available to me. Like if I'm supposed to be drinking something, I can have my grape juice in a wine glass or what. And I
Mhm.
wouldn't do that in an in-person audition. I
Right.
wouldn't be like, I'm bringing my wine glass. That's usually not done. So, but at home, why not? It's not a big
Yeah.
deal. It's not distracting.
Mhm.
So I try to make it as easy for myself as possible.
Yeah. Good. Good, good, good. So you have done all of the roles, all of the things, Shameless, Modern Family, and recently Cross, right? Which is gonna
Yeah,
air pretty soon in November.
it is. I can't wait.
What was it like shooting Cross? Can you tell us any little bit about that?
It was wonderful. That's number one.
Mhm. Yeah.
I loved it. Such a great cast and crew, and the role. I love the role that I play.
Mhm.
It's a crime thriller based on the
Mhm.
James Patterson books about Alex Cross, and so Alex he investigates murders, and I am another detective in the department, and I am
Mhm.
no nonsense and
Mhm.
direct, and she's smart and she's tough. She's so much fun to play. She says all the things that people want to say, but they're like, no, you shouldn't say
Ah.
that. No, she says it. So she's fun, and I hope the people like
Oh,
it.
that's so awesome. I'm so excited. I'm like, yes, I want to hear all the no nonsense. I want to see a little sassiness. I'm here for it. Yes, we are tuning in.
She's a tough
Yes.
one. She's very tough, but also like
Okay.
protective. She's
Mm,
multifaceted.
I love that. I love
Yeah.
that. Speaking of multifaceted, you've done a lot of different roles. Is there one that just kind of sits home with you, or that you're like, oh man, that was such a great role or such a challenging role?
Well, I really like the Cross character quite a bit.
Yeah. Hmm.
Shauna DeLackner. I like her because one, we've already done 2 seasons. I don't know if you know that part. So
Oh,
it hasn't aired yet because of the
okay.
strike and what have you. So it hasn't aired yet,
Mm,
but we've done 2 seasons. So it's
okay.
the first time I've seen a character grow and change and go
Ah,
through all these different experiences. So that's really the fun for me. I've been able to watch her develop, and she's such a great character that it's been a joy. It's been a real joy. So far that's my favorite.
yes. Good, good. We can't wait to see it. That's so interesting too. Now, yeah, with the strike, it's like, okay, now we're recording the second season and all of the
Um,
things,
yeah,
before it even airs.
it's pretty rare, I think, but
Uh-oh.
I guess they liked what they saw the first
Hmm.
season, and the powers that be said, hey, let's give them a
Hmm.
second. So that made us all happy to say the
Yeah,
least,
yeah.
to know that
Yes.
okay, some people like it. Now I'm ready
Hmm.
for the world to see it. But
Yes, yes,
forward to it
yes.
for sure.
Yes. So acting can be seen on the outside looking in as like this glamorous life, all of the things, right? What would you say is maybe not so glamorous side of acting per se?
Mm. Well, the nose,
Yeah.
the times, because people say, "Oh, you post basically you book so many roles." I said, "Well, I don't publicize the ones that I don't book, so you You don't know that part of it, but there may be
Yeah.
some roles that I don't book,
Right.
and you have to be prepared for that as an actor,
Mhm.
perhaps there are actors out there who book every single thing that they ever audition for, but unfortunately I am not one of them. So
Mhm.
you have to brace yourself for those times. And so I try not to get too attached when I do an audition.
Yeah.
When you're doing it, go all in, play it like you booked it, expect to book it, feel good. I've heard people say back when we were in the room, like, if you get a redirect, that means they like it. Or if you don't get a redirect, that means or they don't like, they make all these guesses. Whatever they did in the room, I would say it was for my benefit. If they gave me a direct, I'm like, ooh, they like me. If they didn't, ooh, they like
Mhm.
me. I tried to keep a very positive attitude,
Ah, that's good.
during the whole process. I expect the best, but I don't hold on too tight to it.
Mhm.
Because
Mhm.
another thing about this industry is there's always another role.
Mhm.
So I don't need to hold on so tight. Guess what? They're making these roles every day. So
Yep.
have
Mhm.
another opportunity, and perhaps it'll be better than the last. So
Yeah.
no need for me to still be, hung up on something that I didn't get. Oh well, God bless the woman who did.
Yeah,
We
yeah.
know
And
better.
with acting, you're not working all the time. So
Yeah.
how do you manage even just like that in between time of not like constantly working where I know some people are used to, I work 9 to 5. I go in every day. How do you manage your schedule with the in between time?
I think there's always something that you can do for your
Mhm.
career every day.
Yeah.
And so,
Mhm.
no, I don't have a 9 to 5, but in a way, I feel like sometimes I work more than a regular 9 to 5 because I can work on the weekends or I'll work
Yeah.
until midnight or whatever. This is, it's like working for myself. So, no,
Mhm.
I don't have a boss per se, but I get back what I put in. So
Yeah.
that means that I'm taking classes or,
Mhm.
I've been reading a lot about acting or what else can you do? I've been working on memorization, because
Mhm.
obviously that's important. And there's always like people have different techniques. So I've been trying to learn different things about that. There's literally always something you could do. You could do a scene on your own. You can just memorize it just to see if you can. You can break down scenes. You can market, like we were talking
Mhm.
about. Think about
Yep.
marketing yourself. You can, and nowadays you can do stuff on social media to kind of, get your profile out there. Um, there's literally always something that you can do in furtherance of your career.
Mhm.
And so I think it's important to remember to keep your foot on the gas. Did I say that
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
Mhm.
Keep it because, so often you're like, oh, I don't work today. There's nothing that I can do. Well, you better get ready
Yeah.
because when that time comes, you want to be
Mhm.
prepared. So I
Mhm.
always think you don't ever want to be out of practice. Like if you're a runner or whatever, you need to stay in the gym doing stuff because if somebody's like, all right, you got a race next week, you better
Yeah.
be ready for it. So
Mhm.
I think about it like that. And it's funny because with athletes, and we are using our bodies like
Yep.
athletes use their
Yeah.
bodies and they stay ready. They always stay
Mhm.
conditioned. We have to
Yep.
do the same thing.
I'm glad you mentioned that too, because you can see sometimes when someone isn't actively working,
Mhm.
then they're not working on it. And it's just like,
Right.
oh man, what am I going to do in this time? And it's
Mhm.
just like, I'm so glad that you mentioned no. There's always something I can be doing to improving, to conditioning, just
Yeah.
working that muscle so I don't get rusty. So if something was to come up, I'm ready for it,
Right.
even if it's something a year from now, but I've been working on a particular
Yeah.
accent per se.
Mhm.
I'm
Exactly.
ready for it.
That's exactly
Mhm.
right. Accents, that's a great example. And
Yeah.
even thinking in terms of like I was talking about your targets, if there's something that you're striving for, what's something that you can do to bring you closer? Like say I want to be on Bridgerton, which I would
Mm.
love. Um,
Mhm.
working on my accent, like you said, like
Yeah.
what if somebody called me tomorrow and was like, "Are you ready to get on Bridgerton?" I'll be like, "Wait a minute, hold on, I gotta get," and that's why
Yeah.
stay ready for the opportunities that you want, and it'll
Mhm.
also help with not being so afraid every time you get an
Mhm.
opportunity. You'll feel
Mhm.
like, I'm prepared for this. I've been working
Right.
on this. Like, bring it on.
Yeah, yeah. Are there any classes that you would recommend people hopping into at the moment or in the past that you've taken that have been great for you?
I took a class, but the teacher no longer teaches. He was great.
Uh,
Stephen Book is his name.
okay.
Um,
Mhm.
and he has retired, but he actually has a book. His name is Stephen
Mhm.
Book, and he has a book
Ah,
online. You can
okay.
get it
Good.
anywhere. But he was great. I studied with him for years.
Mhm.
But I think it's fun sometimes just to like look on YouTube and see what the
Yeah.
SAG Foundation, they
Mhm.
have different teachers and speakers who come in. There's a
They
wealth of
do.
information really everywhere if you look. I remember um looking at Larry Moss. He's actually the
Mhm.
acting coach for DiCaprio.
Mhm.
And I was at a SAG event and I asked Leo something about acting and he referenced Larry Moss. And so I went home and I researched Larry Moss and listened to him and even audited one of his classes before just to kind of compare because there are so many methods out there. You have to figure out what works for you. And for me personally, I have a whole toolkit of different things that I might try for different, scenarios. So the information is out there. You're kind of just trying to figure out what works for you.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So if you're practicing for a role or you're getting ready to record or get in the room, do
Mhm.
you have a certain routine? Are there certain things you do to like break down the script that help you or certain things that you do to help you just get into I'm into this character, I'm in this role?
Mm, yes. I mean, I read the script as much as possible, like really get into it. I memorize. Some people say, you don't have to memorize. I memorize because it helps me perform better.
Yeah. Mhm.
I think about the beats that, the writer was intending. Um, I think about
Mhm.
the voice, the physicality of this person. I try, basically, you're trying to get as familiar as possible because a lot of times you only have a couple of days.
Mhm.
So, so like I was talking about, it's not like a 9 to 5. I might be up till midnight, 2, 3 o'clock, just like really
Yeah.
trying to live and breathe this character so that she becomes a real person to me and not just lines on the paper. Um,
Mhm.
so that's something that I do as far as getting familiar. I do breathing exercises to relax
Yeah.
sometimes.
Mhm.
Um, Prayer is always good. Ooh, I'll
Mm.
tell you something that I like to do before an audition. I like to visualize myself on set doing
Mm.
the role, trying to, yeah, just what
Yes.
that feels like, what it looks like, who will I see, what will I do.
Ah,
Um, it
that's
makes me
good.
so happy and it makes
Mhm.
me feel like the role is already mine, which is a better
Mhm.
way to go into the room than feeling like, oh, could you please, maybe give me. No, no, no. Actually, the role is yours for that
Yeah.
time period. What will you do with it? No, you're not getting
Mm.
paid for it. Maybe only a handful of people will see it, but the
Right.
role is yours for that performance. So, what are you going to do with it?
Mm.
So, I like to envision myself. And that proves to be pretty helpful as far as just giving me the confidence I need
Yeah.
before working. And
Mhm.
even when I have a job on set, I still do those same things. Like I'll visualize what my day will look like. What will the director say to me? What will, the
Yeah.
other co-stars like? How will that? And it pumps me up, and makes
Yeah.
me excited about what's to
Yeah.
come. It turns the nerves into excitement.
Ooh, I love that. I love that so much. I did my senior thesis in undergrad way back when on mind and body, the power of visualization. And what I found out, yes, what I found out was that if you visualize something, you're more likely to succeed at it than if you don't visualize it at all. And I looked at several studies and all the things, especially when it comes to athletes and performance. So
Mhm.
I've never applied it to acting, but I did do it when I was like in commercials. Once you start auditioning, going in the room, you start going to the same rooms.
Oh yeah.
So I would picture myself in the room. Okay, what direction is the camera going to be? What direction are they going to be sitting in? And I would face that direction in my home,
I
and then
love it.
visualize it. But I like yours so much better. Visualize yourself being on set, honey,
I know that's right. Taking
not
the
in the audition room.
myself on stage, taking the Emmy.
Yes. I love that so much. And there's so much power in that. And I'm so glad you mentioned that because that was something I just did automatic. But I feel like you mentioning it and then saying it out loud is just so powerful and such a powerful tool. Like, no, visualize yourself on set, getting the Emmy, doing the thing. So
It gives you
good,
a good
Stacie.
feeling. Like it prepares your body for the blessing that's coming. It's like I'm ready
Hmm.
to receive, like this is what it would feel like. And I don't know,
Hmm.
it gives me strength. Something else I've been doing recently to kind of add on to that is having a conversation with my friends as if the thing has already happened. So
Hmm.
say I want to, I even did it with my husband about this interview. I said, I pretend it's over and I
Hmm.
say, I had such a good time talking to Danny. I was
Yeah.
like, the conversation was free flowing. I was
Hmm.
calm. I was confident. Um, she appreciated what I was saying. I learned about
Hmm.
myself. I learned about her, and I
Yeah.
was like, it just went even better than I could have imagined. So I just talk about it as if it's already happened and like what
Yeah.
it again gets my body ready for this positive experience that I expect to have. And it
Yeah.
really is exhilarating to
Mhm.
to say these things as if they already are.
I
And
love it.
and so yeah, that's been a new thing I've been doing and so far so good.
Yes, good, good, good. Hopefully it's all of those things at the end of this. Yes, no, that's awesome. I love that. I'm definitely going to steal that piece, saying it as if it already was. And it almost seems
Still it.
biblical in a sense too. Yeah, no, that's great. I love that. That's so good.
Heard it on the
So,
interweb somewhere.
but you also like implement it. It's one thing we can hear a lot of things, but choosing to implement it and how it's serving you, serving your life, I think that's beautiful. Yeah. So when you're not acting, when you're not working on acting, you also have a life outside of it, which I love seeing. You've built in what seems like this remarkable life. How are you doing it all? How like give us some of the gems of like you have this amazing acting career, but then you also have life outside of it.
Well, that's a priority to have life outside of
Mhm.
acting
Mhm.
because if you're so focused on your career and making your goals happen, it can become very stressful. And this industry can be stressful by itself, but you need time away from it. You need time with your loved ones. You need other interests. Otherwise, it becomes, too much. So it's really
Yeah.
important for me to have a support system. I have hobbies. I salsa dance. I love
Yeah.
boxing, travel. I love spending time with my mom and my husband and my family.
Yeah.
So, all those things are really important because at the end of the day, I mean, really, all those things are more important than not the boxing and the salsa dancing, but my family. My
Mhm.
family is always more important to me than anything. And so
Mhm.
you have to make time for that to have that balance, or else you drive yourself crazy, I think.
Yeah. 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 What would you say is the next thing for you or something that you're putting out there as though you've already achieved it?
Well, I would like to be a series regular on a
Yeah.
critically acclaimed television show in which
Mhm.
I enjoy working there. They appreciate my work, and I'm happy doing it. That's what I
Yeah.
envision for myself. And I like both comedy and drama. It could be both, either or both. I'm good with that.
Mhm.
But I really want to have a community where I enjoy working in that environment. And so
Yeah.
and so, I think and working on Cross has been really, really great. And so that's already walking towards my goals. And so
Mhm.
I just want to continue in that vein.
Yes. Beautiful. Beautiful. Stacie, thank you so much for sharing all of your wisdom, your knowledge, your nuggets, your secret sauce.
It's so
It's
sweet.
been such a joy having you.
My pleasure, Danny. Thank you so much for having
Yes, if people want to find you or connect with you, besides watching you on television,
me.
how can they reach out to you?
You can find me on Instagram at Stacie Greenwell. I'm on Facebook. I'm on all the things as Stacie Greenwell. And
Mhm.
so
Beautiful.
please feel free to reach out. I love it.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Danny. Bye.
Yay. And one more thing before you go. If you've enjoyed this episode, please like, subscribe, leave it 5 stars, and share it with a friend. That incredibly helps our channel out. And we don't want you to miss any amazing nuggets that could change your life in any way or someone you know. So please share this with a friend and remember, you have the power to design your remarkable life.